live on YouTube. 10 minutes late. Thank you guys for joining us. All right, so here's what's going on. My name is Nick Olson. I'm gonna do. Thanks, Jenny. I'm gonna do another open here, and then we're gonna go for this. So, Brian, will you take down my lower third for just 1 second, and then bring it back in? We'll pretend like this is the real deal here, which it is the real deal. Here we go. In 3, 2. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Nick Olson. I am the host of P3, the Pro Production Podcast. You're joining us live on the live stream, or you're watching recorded. Either way, it's great. Super exciting news this week. The first week that we have had our YouTube URL. You guys, the stream was so successful last week that we were able to get a URL, so you can now find us at youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast, and as usual on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast as well. Hey, so excited to have you tonight. It is 7:12 Eastern Time. We're getting started a little bit late, had a few technical difficulties. It's just what comes with it. We all have jobs outside of this, and we're doing the Pro Production Podcast for, it's just kind of a thing to interact with the production community. This kind of all got started through coronavirus. It all got started through live streaming questions that we were getting, so we decided that we would do a live stream, and that's kind of what has led into the P3, the Pro Production Podcast. But we're really, really glad you're here. Whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or you're joining us later, we're so happy to have you tonight. Just want to let you know, too, as usual, we're taking your phone calls. 317-586-2844 is the phone number, as well as interacting with you via the YouTube and Facebook chat. We are so happy you are here with us. But tonight is episode number 7, and it's the second part of our never-ending series on cameras. We are talking about cameras tonight, specifically PTZ cameras. Now, last week, if you joined us, what we had said we were going to do was we were going to talk about PTZ cameras alongside of some broadcast cameras, but here's the skinny of it. We did not feel comfortable where we were at talking about one of the broadcast cameras specifically that we have highlighted for you. So we're kicking that back one more week. So next week, we will be doing just a stream on the FB80 from Sony, the Hitachi HD5500, as well as the Blackmagic Ursa broadcast. So that is the one we did not feel comfortable showing off. If you joined us last week, and you joined us live, it was the first time we had kind of launched all of the cameras up. Go back and watch that on demand if you haven't seen it. It was the week 1 of the Ultimate Camera stream. But the first time we did that camera, we weren't necessarily thrilled with the way it looked. So we want to give it more of the benefit of a doubt and really spend more time with it and work on that more in depth. So we're going to be doing that next week. Stay tuned for that, where we'll be launching or talking more about the broadcast cameras. But tonight, again, PTZ cameras are where it's at. Right now, here's a live look at someone's hands there. I don't know whose hands it is. I think it's AJ's on an overexposed camera. Nate, if we could maybe take that ISO down a bit. And there is AJ's hands, and the guys are in the studio working on the PTZ cameras, finishing up their testing with it. So we are super, super excited to be bringing you some PTZ camera topics tonight. But on the note of PTZ cameras, drop those questions in the chat. And we are so excited to bring those questions or take your guys' questions tonight as we go regarding PTZ cameras. So, so let's go ahead and get into things, as my battery didn't change anything there for my mouse. So I guess we'll just struggle through that all night. We're taking your questions on PTZ cameras. We had so many questions last week on PTZ cameras that we really thought tonight would be a great time to do just an entire stream on PTZ cameras. So we're really excited to be doing that with you guys. So if you have your questions, drop them in now. We'll make sure we get to them. And real quick, I'm gonna turn AJ's mic up just slightly, if he can hear me, and give me a thumbs up and say, "Hey AJ, how much longer do you think we are until we're ready to go here?"
I think we're just about ready. We are looking for the outline that we printed out, actually. So other than that, I think we're good. Do you have my mic clear?
Yeah, everything sounds great.
Okay, cool.
Brady's mic doesn't sound so fantastic, but we'll fix that live. I think we should be good to go here. So, I'm not AJ Fager. That's a lie. I wish I was. I wish I was as cool as AJ.
We should turn the fans off.
Well, cool. Let me pull AJ's mic back down there. Apparently, we're turning the fans off in the shop. That was my bad. Excited to have you guys ask your questions now on PTZ cameras and in chat, and we'll get to those questions as well as the phone number too is live right now. So we're really looking forward to having you guys there too. And I guess my keyboard has just said I'm not cooperating tonight. So if anyone in the shop at all has a mouse at some point in time, I would take that. All right, PTZ cameras. We're going through a range of them tonight. So let me start us off. We're going through a range of PTZ cameras. The PTZ cameras range from more expensive to less expensive. And it's going to kind of show you what you get with PTZ cameras. So we have we'll get more into the PTZ cameras, but we do have an entry line PTZ camera, a medium line, a mid-line PTZ camera. Thanks. Yeah, that would work perfectly. And a kind of a nicer PTZ camera that we actually featured last week, which offers things like 4K, a 4K region of interest crop. But we're going to get more into that, and I think the guys are ready now. So I'm going to send it over down to the floor, down to the studio, as they say in the showbiz world, right? Now, joining us live via about 100-foot SDI cable running next door, AJ Fager, Brady Davis, how are you guys doing? Is everything rolling okay?
I think everything's finally rolling now.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Love it. I love to hear it. So tell us, what cameras do we have tonight, guys?
We have the Panasonic AW-HE40. We have the AW backside. Yep. Oh, two-sided. We have the AW-HE40. We have the AW-HE130 and the AW-HE150. I'm actually very familiar with all three of these cameras. For some reason, my brain isn't working today. I think, as Nick said, I think I
didn't say that.
The unfortunate. No, I don't. I know you didn't say that. I think, but my our full-time jobs are also, I think, weighing on us, huh?
We did say last week that maybe one day the podcast will pay the bills, but until then, this is what you guys get. So we're sorry.
Sounds good. Let's see. So I think we'll kind of just dig right into everything we've got here tonight. So we'll start with let's just kind of go through PTZ cameras. So obviously, some of the pros of PTZ cameras are the cost of entry. They're going to be more versatile for whatever you guys might be looking to accomplish, whether it's house of worship, whether it's corporate, whatever it might be. A PTZ camera is great because the cost of entry is lower, and you can typically throw them out and then just remote control them. So hopefully hopefully there's some versatility there. Obviously, some of the cons are going to be is they're not. By nature, they're typically not going to look as good as your larger broadcast cameras and everything like that. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. The other nice thing about the PTZ cameras is that the way we have them configured tonight is everything is fed off from PoE. So we only have two cables running to each camera. We have the SDI cable and we have the Ethernet cable, which is also feeding PoE, with the exception of one because we think our PoE power supply went bad. So
hey, anyway, AJ, tell us what's PoE? Power
over Ethernet. So you do not have to essentially run a separate power cable to the camera. You can power it directly from your switch. One of the cameras does run on PoE++, which is a relatively new standard, so that is something to keep in mind. But the other cameras can run off standard PoE.
But if you still want to run that with just your Ethernet cable and the SDI cable, all you need is a PoE++ injector on the front end. Is there a distance limitation to that, AJ?
Just 300 feet
300 feet typical?
Yeah.
So, yep. So you can still run power over Ethernet.
Pretty soon here, it's just going to be the actual power lines down the streets are just going to be Ethernet. It's just going to be Cat 6, and then everything will just be PoE++++, and that'll
that's
give you
just going to feed EMF into your cameras, and you won't even have to worry about everything's going to be wireless.
Everything's going to be wireless. That's right.
It's not wireless? No, it's not wireless. I'm sorry. Some of these cameras do have NDI, if that's a thing that you want to use, probably more for, I don't know, maybe a classroom or a security application. I don't think I would recommend feeding a primary production camera NDI. Still, I think just the compression and the latency that you're going to get by doing that is not necessarily the recommended format. So yeah, that's all I can think of. We'll start with the AW-HE40. So this one, Nate, let's zoom in on it, and we'll get a form factor here of what the AW-HE40 looks like. So this is the Panasonic PTZ AW-HE40. Something to keep in mind about this camera is if you are running a Genlock workflow, this camera does not have a Genlock input, but it does have a single SDI output. So that's nice. And again, this camera is PoE, and it is currently powering off PoE. So again, just two cables running into this camera. One is control and Ethernet, and the other one is SDI. So the this camera's price point starts. This is just online price, just for reference. The price point on this camera starts at about $3,500. It is a 1 by 2/3 by 1 by 2/3 inch sensor. It is a full MOS sensor. It's only a single sensor. It does have a 30x optical zoom and a 10x digital zoom. I don't know what the actual millimeters are on that. I forgot to write that down. It also will not do 1080p 59.94. So that's something to keep in mind with this camera. I do think there is a newer model of this camera that will do 1080p 59. I actually think it'll do 4K, right, Nick? I think the newer model will.
Yeah,
So anyway.
just go ahead and throw me into the bus there for that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anyway.
sure, it'll do 4K. It'll do 4. You just got to plug a decimator into
Usually,
it. Then it'll do 4K.
yeah. Usually, you just agree with me on things, so that's why I was
Yes.
just throwing it to you.
I don't
Yes,
think
it'll
the
do
new
4K.
one. We can
The 42.
We can fact check. I don't think.
The
42 will do.
Will it do 4K?
The
think
research
so, yeah.
department, I'm being. Yep, that's right. I'm being told right now the research department is looking that up. So,
Okay, sounds
so we'll
good.
know in a second.
Sounds good. So anyway, let's show the picture of the AW-HE40. Brady, let's throw
Yeah,
that one up there.
we're good.
Oh, it's in.
Yep, it's in.
There it is.
And this
in.
is just in our chart.
There
Yep.
it is.
So that is the picture of the AW-HE40. And as we dig deeper into these cameras, we will do a side-by-side of them and everything else and kind of show you what you're getting when you start to get into that next price point.
AJ, do you remember the distance we are from camera to chart right now is roughly what?
30 feet.
30 to
So,
35 feet?
Yeah, we'll call it 35 feet from the camera to the chart.
And this is zoomed all the way in.
So-
I'll zoom it out just so we can, for reference.
Brady, do you want to move
Oh,
over?
I'm sorry, there you go.
Is that digital zoom or is that optical zoom?
It's not telling me. That's optical right there.
Okay, cool. So,
So right
some
there,
pretty good
right
zoom
there,
length.
right there is the end of your
Optical zoom.
optical zoom.
Okay,
That we can push digital,
okay.
but it comes out a decent bit too.
Yeah. So, you can see our framing subjects now. We might as well talk
Oh,
about.
no.
We might as well talk about
Yeah,
our
we'll
framing
just hint
subjects.
that.
The cover has been blown. Everyone knows now what we're doing.
So, we are 35 feet away from the garage door. Because we don't have a longer shop, we decided to get creative. So let's move into our framing subjects, Brady, on the AW-HE40. So we have two framing subjects on the garage door there. One of the framing subjects is 3 feet tall. The other framing subject is 6 feet tall, or 2 feet tall. So we can assume that in real life, it's actually not, we don't even have to assume, we can fact check this. Han Solo is actually 6 feet 1 inch. So we're just going to round that down to 6 feet. And then this is essentially what the shot would look like if the subject on the left would be what the shot would look like if we were 70 feet away. And then the subject on the right would be what the shot would look like. What's 35 times 3? 90, 105, 105 feet away. So, yeah. So there you go. So that is your framing. And is that optical zoom, Brady?
We are still at optical zoom.
So that is your framing on a subject. And that's the 2-foot Han Solo, right?
Yep, that's the 2 foot Han Solo. So you're getting, a roughly built up shot there
Yeah, yeah.
from 90 or 105 feet away,
Yeah, yeah.
which is pretty good for what is that, 20x, I believe.
30.
A 30 on the
30 on this.
30x.
on this. Yeah.
And I do want to point out the light is obviously it's getting lower light there as
Yeah.
we zoom in farther.
Yeah,
What does it
and we
look
can
like?
turn-
What does it look like if we adjust on that camera at that distance to try to?
Open up that aperture a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can definitely tell
Yeah,
it's
you
getting
can
to the
play
end
with
of its focal length. It's getting to the end of its zoom rather, and
I'll
it's-
be the first to admit, I did not want to. I don't know if I can call it a waste. We didn't want Han Solo to cost too much, so we definitely printed that out on more of a draft setting. So
Hey,
I
I d-
apologize.
those draft settings still aren't cheap, man. It probably still cost a bit of money.
Yeah, yeah. I should have spent more on Han Solo. I apologize, but that was a last minute idea that I had. And anyway,
I think it works well. You get a good frame of reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe when
This is the iris touched up a little bit, and that's about all.
So I guess real quick, let's have a discussion around this. So zoom back out a little bit, Brady, and then tilt pan down, tilt down, just right there, that stop there. Yeah, so I think right there, and now you can iris down a touch. That looks a lot better.
Yeah.
So I think it, while it might have the 30 times zoom capability, I think it's important to note that it might not necessarily be.
You might be stretching the limitations.
Yeah, you maybe not use the 30 times zoom all of the time, right? Because right there, that looks acceptable. There's a lot of details. The colors still look good. It doesn't look like there's a lot of grain in the camera. But Brady, as you push back in there and zoom back in, you can kind of notice you start to get to the end of it. Zoom and the quality decreases a little bit. So, but you can tell. I mean,
optical zoom.
And in the defense of that movement, Brady's not the most.
I'm an awful camera operator.
He's not
guys.
the best PTZ operator. So we actually didn't even talk about the controller, Nick. We should probably.
Brady, I'm going to do a side. No, I'm not going to do a side by side because I don't think I can. But Brady, kind of show us the movement on the controller there, and then I'm going to just show us just a small movement. So maybe
the
pull
controller
down.
is the AW-HE150.
RP150. So Brady, just pull down just a touch, and then just keep consistent, and I'm going to then show what that looks like.
Yeah,
so
and my speed is at half right now, so at 50%.
Oh, now you're zooming too. So just pull down and keep a consistent motion, and that's that. So it's, I mean, at that distance and that camera cost, that camera entry, that entry level camera cost, you're obviously starting to. AJ's going to come over and fix things for Brady.
No, I was just going to say, I think personally this is way smoother if you don't use the zoom on.
Yeah, I was using the zoom on the joystick, so
right.
That is my apologies.
And we talked about that last week too, AJ. Will you highlight real quick too that there's a zoom on this particular model? There's a zoom on the left side, so you can do two-handed, and there's also zoom for those who are insane that would rather zoom with their right hand on the joystick as well.
So anyway, we'll do. Let's turn down the speed a little bit more.
You guys can see the joystick.
And we'll just do a quick, slow pull.
Yep.
While trying to maintain Han Solo in the frame.
Yeah, that's totally doable.
Yeah, and we'll get the larger Han Solo now.
And just kind of back all the way out. That way it kind of gives us a frame of what we're dealing with here. I mean, that's really, really smooth. And once you kind of see the scale here next to a garage door, that now you're kind of seeing what... and that's really, really smooth. So...
Now I'm speeding up a little bit.
There's Nate.
And obviously you have to close that iris down once
Yep.
you... oh, we're still in auto, huh?
Off, but you can.
Huh. We're going to have to figure out what's going on with the iris.
Hey, and I do want to say, as we're getting questions in chat as it relates to cameras that we're going to be focusing a little bit later in the stream on, we will be bringing those questions up. So just because your question is not getting answered right now doesn't necessarily mean that we're not taking your question. It just means that we're writing it down, and we're going to bring it up maybe at a later time when it's more applicable. So we do see your guys' questions here, in here too. So AJ, what are we doing with this camera? Is that anything else we want to say about this camera?
We'll be going back to these cameras. We'll be doing a little bit differently tonight because we only have 3 cameras to cover, and we have a little bit more time to cover.
Sweet.
So
I do want to touch on the controller a little bit while we're still there. This can do presets. You can save your motions. So that nice, awesome pull that AJ did, you could save that as a preset, hit your preset, and then come back, or it can do that zoom out live for you. And you can do up to 100 presets per camera. And technically, it's 200 cameras over IP.
Yeah,
you can control.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You can also do all of your white balancing and stuff from the controller.
I mean, they're essentially your RCP as well.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it's still functioning as your RCP.
Yeah. So I man, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So anyway, so we are going to be going through each one of these cameras individually, and then we're also going to be doing side-by-sides of them tonight.
Cool.
So I do think that it is important that we also talk about briefly why we only have one manufacturer out here.
Yes.
And I'm just going to be honest, it is because I have had loads of experience with manufacturers less than these cameras. And this is the only starting point that I feel comfortable with. And I mean that out of complete sincerity. Yes, there are cheaper PTZ cameras out there that you can purchase. And yes, they will absolutely serve a purpose, whether it's a conference room, whether it's a corporate facility, whether it's a classroom, whatever it might be, they will serve a purpose. However, we're talking about live production. And as it relates to live production, these cameras in particular are the cameras that we recommend for live production. They are just a powerhouse for live production, and I think that there's just a certain price point that when you start to get down to, the quality is just too diminishing to even consider it for live production. So,
and it's worth mentioning too that we went out and we purchased these cameras ourselves. We own these. We were not given these. I'm at least pretty sure we were not given these as a demo. We own these cameras. We purchased them for the purpose of doing demos with, and we represent other companies that sell PTZ cameras too. But I mean, so I guess all that being said is what I'm saying here is like these weren't given to us for any type of promotional promotional use. These are cameras that we decided to purchase for this purpose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, let's dig into the 130 now. This is a fan favorite, I would say. We'll jump into the 150 obviously as well, but the 130 was definitely my go-to PTZ camera. It was the best bang for the buck. It had the best the best low light capabilities. It has the best color. It was really just a great, it really is, and it still is. I say was, like it still is. It's just the 150 is now out and it costs more. But anyway, the 130 is a great looking camera, and it's got great color reproduction, great low light reproduction. And once we get through all these cameras, we're going to turn the lights down a little bit and do some of that testing, and we'll look at that as well. But let's put the picture of the 130 up.
Good to go.
So this is the 130. Let's back out a little bit, Brady, so we can see all that color in the chart. So that is the 130. And while we're on the 130, Brady, let's go ahead and do a wipe on from three to four, so we can just do a side by side. And let's back out on camera 3 a little bit so that we can see the color reproduction, because I do think it's important that you start to see the color reproduction of the two types of cameras. So let's just do that side by side. So you can kind of see we're going to get a lot more saturation on the 130.
You have your 130 on the right and your 40 on the left.
Yeah, so go back now to just the 130, because look at that skin tone chip there and see how much more vibrant it looks. And then right there. So yep. So again, the 40 is not a bad camera, but there is a difference in the sensor between the 40 and the 130. The maybe a downside compared to the 130 versus the 140 is going to be that zoom. It's got a little bit larger glass, a little bit larger sensor, so you're not going to have quite the focal length that you did on the 40.
Right, there's the farthest zoom.
Yeah. So if you do have a longer throw, and we'll do our framing here in a second, but if you do have a longer throw, it is going to be important to take the fact that this camera is only 20x into consideration. So let's see. This is a 1x2.86 3MOS sensor. So that's actually why you are getting more color saturation. You have 3 CMOS sensors in this camera. It's a slightly larger sensor and a 20x optical zoom. There is a digital zoom. I don't believe we have that turned on. We can, once we take a break or whatever, we can try to turn that on and go back to manual mode and take a look at that. This camera does have Genlock, so it has SDI and SDI out, HDMI out. Actually, it has composite video out as well. Interesting. Anyway, and it has Genlock in. So this camera can be Genlocked, so you don't have to worry about wasting a frame sync on your switcher. So you're going to have a, slightly less latency if you run Genlock to this camera than if you didn't. So and then let's see, this camera does do 1080p 5994, 1080i 5994, 720p all the way down. Let's see. Oh, this camera does also I don't remember if does the 40 do this? I gotta check my outline now. Maybe it does. Either way, we know the 130 does it. I've never used this feature, but the 130 does have a direct stream feature. So it will do RTMP
yeah.
directly out of the camera, which is a great feature if you want to use it in a security application or something like that. It also has, I think, what's it say? The ability to transmit 4 channels over IP at the same time. So,
well, and there's also RTMP can be, now, like we're using vMix to do, we're using vMix to do the main switching of this. To do the other switching, we're using a Ross Carbonite switcher Ultra with the full 2ME panel, which might be slightly overkill for this application, but it's working
it's
great
definitely
for
not
us.
overkill.
Never overkill.
Definitely not overkill.
So, why would we do it if it's not overkill, right? So, but vMix can take in an RTMP stream. So you could use it like waterproof housings, weatherized housings for those, traffic cameras, outdoor cameras, things like that can be utilized, which is a nice feature of those as well, using the built-in RTMP server if it has it. So, yeah, or just throw down, a throwdown camera real quick, to stream with. So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So let's go back to the 130 and let's use our framing subjects. And again, we are about 35 feet away. This is
3 foot
3 foot Han Solo. So this is 70 feet away. So, and this is as tight as we can get.
Right there is
as tight as we can get.
And it's worth noting here that the quality does not seem like it breaks up on this camera towards the end of its zoom.
I wouldn't say so.
Like the other camera
I don't
does.
even move back a little bit, Brady. I don't even know if you lose any light. Do you lose some light? Are we getting brighter as we move back?
It does not appear.
Yeah. So this one also has a constant aperture throughout the zoom range of the camera, which also is going to be a very desirable feature because, unless you have a separate shading panel on your operator, an operator is going to have a hard time grabbing, and you can actually kind of show what this motion will look like, Nick, if you want to switch over to this other camera. You would end up kind of working the zoom and the focus.
You guys actually have to switch over to that other camera.
No. The Black Magic here. The other the
pocket. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
That one. So you would have to work the iris right here with this finger while working the zoom, while also working the pan and tilt here. So it's definitely not, a movement I would suggest. But so that is going to be a huge, I think, feature to the 130 is going to be that constant, the 130 right here is going to be that constant aperture throughout the range of the zoom. So we can show that move one more time, Brady. What
do you want to do?
Yeah, let's just tighten up on our 3 foot Han Solo.
We're on our 3 foot Han Solo.
There you go.
I'll never be able to not think of Han Solo as either 3 foot or a 6 foot Han Solo.
That's the
again.
2 foot Han Solo.
This is
the 3 foot Han Solo.
To...
So this is a subject that is 70 feet away. So I would say that 70-ish feet is going to be about your limitation if you're looking for that waist up shot.
You are at the very end, and if you are running any sort of music or something, if you're zoomed in, you might get a little bit more vibration too.
Yeah, so that is something that we definitely need to talk about when it comes to PTZs, is how they are mounted / affixed to the building. Long story short, if you have a building and you want to mount them to the building, they're going to shake. We have tried probably everything, and we have not found a great way to completely eliminate vibrations, whether it's subwoofers, building vibrations, whatever it might be. They're going to shake. There's a great company called Nigel B, and they make a wall mount that works really well that we've used, but it only mitigates some of the vibration. It doesn't mitigate enough of it. I would say that if you want to use PTZs, they really need to be, in an ideal scenario, they need to be tied to a solid structure of sorts, whether it's steel or whether it's a building column or something like that. That's definitely something to keep in mind and bring up is, actually, go ahead and switch over to it, Brady.
What?
This camera. So I'll just do a very light tap. And obviously we're zoomed all the way in. And Nate, can you get in on my hand here? Because I am tapping it with about the same consistency. I am very lightly tapping this. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, put your, if you're using this in an auditorium, put your hand on the wall.
Yeah.
Put your hand on the back wall, and when the music's playing, if you can hear it, or if you can feel that vibration in your hand, obviously a large flat surface is going to act as a, it's going to turn acoustical energy into mechanical energy very quickly, right? Into physical energy. So if you can feel something on the back wall when the music's playing, then you're going to be able to see it on the camera. So, and the Nigel B stuff does isolate it a bit. It's essentially a shock mount, right? For one of these units here.
A lot of rubber washers all over it that can definitely help isolate it.
But, at some point in time, it becomes difficult to shock mount a moving camera because then at one point in time, does the movement of the camera then cause issues as well? So, yeah, that's a really good point, is that there are going to be vibrations. So,
Nick, if you wanted to bring the camera shot back up, we do have an AB versus, so right here's the 30, correct, AJ?
What?
This is the middle camera, so...
Yeah, the 30.
The 30, and then here's the 40.
So, yeah.
So this is the first one we demoed. Here's the second one.
And the white balance looks slightly
White balance
off.
is slightly off.
we can work on those again and see if we can do a side-by-side. But even if the white balance is off, you can definitely tell
your saturation.
The three sensors versus the single sensor. The color, skin tone is definitely different between the two. So
yeah, and I would actually say, surprisingly, for a draft print, I would say if we were to stand Han Solo up to a normal person, his skin tone would actually be relatively close right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We can maybe someone will model. Maybe I'll model later for us. But no, they look great. They definitely Hans is out here looking great tonight. Speaking of looking great, there I am. We are live right now on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone last week who helped us meet our goal of hitting 100 subscribers over on YouTube, so we could get our youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast URL. That's awesome. We hit 120 subscribers, and if you're watching right now and you're not subscribed, why? Why would you do that? It's good for all of us. Just press subscribe, please. So we're taking your questions, YouTube, Facebook, as well as our phone number, 317-586-2844, 317-586-2844. Someone asked me tonight why I didn't write the number down. It's because now it's a challenge, and I'm going to win that challenge, and I'm going to remember the phone number. So it's not raining here tonight. That's nice, but it's going to. So I've already pulled the Jeep without the cover on it inside. And we're not doing a giveaway tonight, but we want you to come back next week, and we want you to share this with your friends too. Again, the whole point of the Pro Production Podcast is to explain these technologies. Last week we went through broadcast cameras, PTZ cameras, cinema cameras. We went through the whole spectrum of cameras used in live production, and this week we're focusing more on PTZ cameras as well. And if you miss any of our episodes of the Pro Production Podcast, go back and watch them on our YouTube and our Facebook page as well. And again, we are working, if I ever have any more time, we're working on getting those loaded to places that carry podcasts like Spotify and the iTunes soon. So but super excited you're here tonight. We're taking your questions in chat. If you will share this, that would be great. Hopefully you and your friends on Facebook and YouTube find this content interesting and helpful too. So I think that's all I've got for right now.
I wanted to say I think we did get the white balance
sweet.
fixed. So
sweet. Let me go back to that. All right. So I'm back on I'm back on your cameras here. Man, Hans is looking great. Probably iris up a touch on that.
Second. There we go.
So now we can do an AB between them here.
AB, so this is the 40 and the 30.
Yeah, no, they look really close. I mean, this is definitely much flatter. You know, when you're irising up, I would say when you irised up to make up for the light loss in the lens, once you've zoomed in, the image became flatter as we either irised or gained up. I don't know what you did there, Brady.
Yep, irised
and
up.
then you irised up, and then there's a lot more depth in this camera too.
Oh, I don't think I mentioned the price point on this camera.
Yeah,
this camera's $67.95.
And which camera is that? Can you point to it there?
130. This one.
Okay, and it's what again?
The $67.95.
Okay, and that's the street price for it. What is
Yeah.
the other camera there to our...
This one?
Yep.
This is the Panasonic AW-HE40. This is the Panasonic AW-HE130. This one street price is about $3,500. This one street price is 67. What did I say? 67 something. 67.95. So we'll call it 6,800.
Cool.
So yeah.
And these are just references. Again, we talked about this last week. We're just giving these as references of, at the end of the day, price is somewhat linear with quality. For example, the camera up on the top right there of our image looks
That's
great,
exponential.
and it's a lot more expensive. So we do want to say that like the price, whatever manufacturer go with, is definitely linear with quality. So I guess we're giving these price points as a reference to say this is the type of image quality, lens, sensors you're going to get out of these cameras.
Yeah.
Which is super helpful. So, AJ, what's next?
Let's jump over to the 150. So the 150 definitely has a lot going on, and it has a lot to talk about. So the Panasonic AW-HE, right? It's a UE150.
UE150.
It is not an HE. It's a UE. Ultra Extreme, probably. I don't know what that UE stands for.
Yeah,
So
we'll
the
go with Ultra
Panasonic-
Extreme.
The Panasonic AW Ultra Extreme 150. This is a 4K PTZ camera. It is a single MOS sensor, but it is a larger sensor. So it is a 1-inch MOS sensor. It is so we'll do 4K 60 and HD simultaneous out. It also, and this is something that I think a lot of people were asking about last week that we didn't have time to show. So this camera has dual output. So it has a single full frame output and then also a cropped output. So you can output it's essentially two cameras in one. So we'll show this here in a second on our framing subject, but let's first start on the chart and show what these colors look like. So
Good
this
switch.
is the chart, Nick. And then so this is the AW-HE150. The price point on this camera is just under $10,000, so $99.95. I feel like I'm on an infomercial when I talk about $99.95. Let me just be clear: this is not an infomercial. You can buy whatever camera you want. And anyway, it's just
Call now.
No. Yeah, come on down. No, it's just so anyway, it's right around $10,000. This is the picture on the UE150. So while everyone's got this in their head, let's just do a quick wipe to the UE130 or HE130. Sorry, HE130. So that'd be camera 3.
Oops.
So
Quick
yep.
wipe. There you go.
So you can see the difference between those two. So slightly, and again, our white balance is slightly off. We didn't spend a lot of time coloring these cameras. We definitely know that the 130 and the 150 can get relatively closer to one another. But I would say out of the box, they're definitely pretty close as it is. And you're not going to gain much more saturation. I think the big thing that you're gaining is that 4K sensor. And we'll have to do the low light test because I actually haven't done a low light test with these cameras yet.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah,
We'll see how that works.
that'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, coming up later on the show, and reminder, show is an hour and a half tonight. We just did a 2-hour show last week because we had 7 cameras to get through. Show's an hour and a half tonight, so coming up later on the show, we're going to turn the lights off, we're going to turn the lights down, and we are going to be looking at the cameras in low light settings because we know y'all don't like light on the stages or whatever your subject you're shooting, so we're going to take a look at the lights. Right now, I'm in the studio while I'm looking out at the studio floor over our glass perch here, and it's relatively bright, but it's not any brighter than it would need to be. So
Yeah.
on Hans on the chip there.
So let's show the framing subject, Brady. Let's show what this camera can do as far as a tight and a wide shot and one camera goes. So
Before we jump to that, AJ, I did want to show. So my zoom setting is all the way down right now. And I will zoom out for you so you get a frame of reference of how slow this will zoom. And like I said, speed is all the way down. If I cut to the AW-HE40 that we were just on. Whoops. Gotta switch cameras. That's as slow as it'll go. So you do get some pretty good finer controls moving up to the 150 as well.
Yeah. And I would say that that's probably just in the electronics of the servo design. They're going to put many fewer steps in the motor of this more expensive camera than they are in the more value engineered camera. So I would definitely say that that's a fact for sure. So
Everything down.
let's just use the Han on the left. Yeah, and let's get him center frame. So we actually need to edit the crop on that framing. Let's see.
While they're doing something technical, I want to remind you next week we actually are going to be able to take a look at broadcast cameras. There's 2 broadcast cameras in there that you might not be as excited about, the Hitachi HD5500 and the Sony FB80. They're both great cameras, but the reason you're probably not excited about those is because the new hot thing on the street is the Blackmagic Ursa Broadcast. And we're going to be real with it. We are going to talk about its pros. We're going to talk about its cons. We are going to give you the real rundown on the Ursa Broadcast next week. So, hey, if you guys have any questions long-term for the stream, things you would like to see on the stream, shoot us a message to the Pro Production Podcast Facebook page. Shoot us a message there, or drop us a message on YouTube as well. We would love to hear your suggestions for future shows coming up as well. And also, if you have any questions, you can message us there, or just critique. More than willing to hear that. Probably won't listen to your critique, but no, I'm joking. We will. But yeah, so let us know if you have any future ideas or anything that you would like to see maybe reviewed or put up against each other on the stream, on the podcast upcoming. And we would love to do that with you there. So I think the guys have got their I think he said a crop or something done. So hopefully the crop was good this year, guys.
Yeah,
and it yielded a lot
crop
of
is good crops.
Good crop for you.
Crops. Well, actually, they're just getting planted, so we actually don't know yet whether or not the crops are good.
Okay,
so.
nerd. It was a joke.
I was raised on a farm.
As my grandpa would
go.
always say, we'll know by 4th of July.
Yeah, exactly.
Knee high by 4th of July.
Oh, Indiana. I love it here. We're all farmers.
And everyone who's not in Indiana or Midwest is just laughing their butts off right now.
And have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Talk about the
We're all
crop.
farmers.
Yeah, so let's
We're all
talk about the
farmers.
crop.
Talk about the video crop.
Technology. So anyway,
So
all right.
Nick, do you want to take a program here?
Yeah.
This is, again, the UE150. This is about half zoom.
Let's be sure we are talking about right now the subject on the left. So we are talking about the 3 feet tall Han Solo.
Which, again, from this distance would be, what, roughly 70 feet? This is roughly
70 feet, yeah.
70 feet. And we're about halfway zoomed.
So to clarify real quick, just because everyone's confused, when you talk about the 3 foot Han Solo, that's really 6 foot Han Solo at 70 feet?
Yeah.
6 foot Han Solo at 70 feet.
Correct.
On the left. He's really 3 feet in real life, but for the matter of the demonstration, he's 6 feet.
It's like going
at
to the
70
eye
feet.
It's like going to the eye doctor and they have that mirror.
Yeah.
That's
So Han Solo.
bouncing
So just to recap for the people that are just now joining us, Han Solo is 6 feet in real life. He's technically 6 foot 1 inch.
Left.
We're gonna cut
Left
that down.
Han Solo.
We're gonna cut that down, and he's also wearing some platform boots. But anyway, so anyway, we're gonna cut that down and say that he's 6 feet in real life. So this is a 3 foot printout of Han Solo on the left, and we are approximately 35 feet away from that Han Solo. So that means that we are 70 feet from a 6 foot Han Solo. So if your camera is 70, if the UE-150 is 70 feet from your subject, the picture on the left is the one you can expect. So we'll see if we can get into the one on the right, which would be 105 feet. But let's stick with the one on the left because we need to talk about the framing. So this is one camera. Let's show the second output of this one camera. Bam! Right there.
Same camera.
2 outputs, 1 camera. Done.
Which is great for your center shots. A lot of times we say you want 2 center shots.
I'd say 3, but yeah.
Well, when we say center shot too, we mean wide tight.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about with that.
Yeah.
And I would say this is especially important on PTZs because if you don't have that wide and that tight, you're not going to. Let's just be honest. Regardless of the PTZ you're using, unless you're using one of those fully robotic systems, Ross has one. What's that other? Oh gosh, PRG. The PRG has a camera system as well. Unless you're using one of those truly fully robotic, manned systems, I do think that you need to give yourself some bailout options on PTZs. You can't rely on a single center camera, because if your subject steps out of frame too quickly, you're just not going to be able to keep up with them. So I definitely think that it is important to have multiple options when it comes to using PTZs. That's not something we talked about early on, but it is something that definitely needs to be taken into consideration. Is one camera is never enough. You at least need 2 cameras. Ideally, you need 2 center shots and then some sort of relief shot. But it all also depends on shot structure and what you can get away with. So let's go back to that full size. Let's go back to that one, and then we'll just go back to the camera 2 input as well, and just do a cut back and forth on those a few times so you can kind of see. So that's the tight shot, that's the head to waist, and that is the head to toe. So the reason you want those shots is because you want to make sure that you're giving yourself more room in the frame. If the subject needs to move a little bit more from left to right, if he's going to do an abrupt movement, you're going to be able to bail to that first shot, that wide shot, keep him in the frame, and then reframe a little bit more, a little bit more subtly than if he just stepped out of the frame in that first shot. So, and
this should be noted that these are being switched within the switcher here. So these are 2 separate inputs into the switcher, 2 separate 1080 inputs into the switcher, and we're switching back and forth. So the switcher's not having
2 cables from the camera. So
Correct.
if you're installing this, you'll need your Ethernet with the PoE++ for power, and then 2 separate HDSDI
and Genlock
and Genlock
and Genlock.
Three
so
RG6 cables and 1 Cat 6
cables.
So it is a 4 cable solution to the camera. The camera also can be powered externally via XLR DC as well, but in case you don't have a PoE++, you can run a standard
4-pin DC XLR.
4-pin. Yep. So that is an option as well. But yeah, this is totally switched. It's not switched at the control panel. The control panel doesn't really care. The only thing the control panel is going to allow you to do is to select the region of interest crop. So it doesn't just have to be a center crop or like a top third crop, or the crop can be anywhere within the 4K sensor. And it's a 2 times crop, right, AJ? Is that?
I think it's actually somewhat changeable.
More than that?
Yeah, I think I've currently got it on a 2 times, but it can be moved, it can be changed. There's a lot of things that you can do in the software.
Yeah, it's at a 2x now. You can kind of change it to what you want.
I think
there's a 1.4. You can adjust it to where you want it.
How far can you go on it? Just a 2 times?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll check into that.
Brady's looking.
So, and what's happening here, and AJ, you probably can explain this better than I can.
Hey,
what's I'm glad that wasn't on the screen. What's happening here? What you just saw was what you just didn't see was the region of interest crop being in the wrong spot on Han Solo.
Yeah. I don't know. Never mind.
Yeah.
We can't call that the wrong spot. It's Han Solo.
Okay, so what the region of interest crop is doing is, since we have a 4K sensor, but we're using this camera at 1080, and this has been a secret of 4K for a long time, we're just zooming digitally in without losing pixels, because there is an oversaturation.
Well, we're losing the 4K portion of the pixels, but we're still 1080.
Right, so, but it's important to note too, none of this will work if you're running your workflow in 4K. It will only work if you're running your workflow in 1080. So it's a 4K camera, but the reason why we're using it is because of the 4K sensor, not necessarily because it's outputting 4K to do the region of interest crop.
Correct.
And again, it's utilizing the larger sensor to get a digital zoom. Digital zoom used to be a bad thing, because you were essentially zooming into the image, but losing DPI is not the right word for it, but losing pixel density. Yeah. Now we keep a pixel density at least at a 1-to-1 ratio of pixels on the sensor to pixels being outputted. So that's why this is important.
Yeah. So yeah, the 4K sensor is essentially downscaling to HD. So it's got more pixel density for an HD picture. And then if you're doing a crop, it's technically it's still an HD and high definition amount of pixel density, whatever it is on that particular sensor. So yeah. But that's definitely something to keep in mind is the crop on this camera can be moved anywhere. So
Hey guys, I've got some questions here.
yeah,
Let's sit down at the meeting table here at the table with each other and talk about some questions. We've got some viewers. So
yeah, sounds good. And then it's 8:01. Don't forget, we want to do a low light test. So.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do we want to get set up for the low light test now, and then we'll take some questions in the meantime?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So Christopher asked, I would love to hear about cameras that pair with the AW-HE150. Last week, we took a look at a camera that paired really well with the 150. AJ, that was the camera that are we using it to do the live stream tonight?
We are.
Yeah.
We're using the 350 tonight to do the live stream.
So
I will say that my plan is to incorporate the 150 into the stream as a broadcast camera. So we will shoot that out against the other cameras.
Cool. So, the 150 we're going to go look next week, but the 150 is also a Panasonic camera. I would say that there's some validity to say that if you're utilizing a Panasonic PTZ camera or a different manufacturer's PTZ camera, that utilizing their non-PTZ cameras is probably a wise decision as well. Because chances are the sensors are manufactured at least in similar ways and will look relatively similar. So someone said, any recommendations on isolation pads? Yeah, that's what we talked about. The Nigel B is what it was called. AJ, is that correct?
Well, the Nigel B is an isolation mount.
Okay.
As far as isolation pads go, I've had kind of okay luck with them, but I haven't had great luck with them. They do work, but I haven't had phenomenal luck with them. So
David Jordan asked, will the 150 will output to the multi-viewer at the same time? So it will output to the multi-viewer at the same time. Essentially, the switcher is going to see those as two completely separate cameras.
we can actually Nate, let's just move around here to the multi-view on the Carbonite Ultra. So you can actually see we've got all four cameras coming into the multi-view here.
Right here we have our UE150. This is our wide shot UE150 tight shot. The HE40,
yeah,
and then the 30 right there. So it looks like a completely separate camera. The only time you know that it's not is when let me switch over. You can see both of them moving there because it's the same camera.
So yeah. Well, are we ready to take a look? And guys, again, if you're just joining us, we are taking a look at PTZ cameras. Right now, we're just taking a look at Panasonic PTZ cameras, but it's fairly linear across the reputable PTZ manufacturers as to see what you're getting with, single sensors or, three sensors in a camera, whether it's a 4K PTZ camera. So we've been taking a look at those. If you've missed it, come back and join us. Watch the video on demand. It's on our YouTube and our Facebook page as well. And again, we're back next week looking at broadcast cameras at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But taking a look at PTZ cameras, that's what we've been doing. We've taken a look at three of them. And now that we have taken a look at the three of them with the optimal lighting conditions, we're going to take a look at them in their low light conditions. So we have turned off the lights here in Studio 1A. We're overlooking the city. It's absolutely beautiful here. It's a really nice night. All of this is a lie, by the way. We're in a garage essentially. It's a warehouse. But we're shutting the lights down here. We're going to lower the light and look at these in suboptimal lighting conditions to see how they perform. Hey, and again, we're taking your questions on Facebook and YouTube, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast, youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast. Taking those right now, as well as taking your calls via phone. So 317-586-2844 is the number to call. That's what will get you on air to ask us questions. So we've got about 25 minutes left here. And I believe we are ready to take a look at these cameras in low light conditions right now. So AJ?
So did we, Nate, we're at 1%? No, 10%. Yeah, let's bring it down a little bit more. Let's
It's funny. I'm watching out here, and this light is like, well, why would you ever have me down this low?
Yeah.
Like, what purpose am I serving?
Yeah. It's a nice light.
It is a very we're using. This is the first week we've had it. What lights do we have in here now, AJ?
They're all light panels. So our studio lights are light panels. I'm not gonna get the research department to look up the model numbers.
Okay. Light panels is the name of the panels though, and they've worked really well for us. The guys over there are using 3 of the light panels, and we have 1 currently on the
and they've
the
all
chip
got
chart
soft
in Han Solo.
boxes and everything else. So and they're all dialed to 6,000 degrees Kelvin. So
Yep.
So this is 1% light. So let's bring up. This is the
30.
This is the 30. So let's bring up.
Or no,
camera.
the 40. I'm sorry, the 40. So
Sorry,
this is
the 40.
This is
Yep. So let's
the
bring that
more
up in
affordable
program.
option of the 3.
That's on you, Nick.
Okay.
You got to push that program button.
I know. I'm doing it.
This is irised all the way up.
This is irised all the way
Is
up.
there any gain on that?
Nope.
There's no gain.
0 gain.
Okay. So you're definitely going to start to see some noise in that sensor when you don't have a lot of light coming into it. And you're not going to get the color saturation. That's also something to keep in mind is you're definitely, everything's just going to look a lot more dull in low light. Nate, let's bring the light up. You said we're at 1%? Let's bring it up to like 5%.
Tony had mentioned earlier, by the way, how this camera's crooked, and he's absolutely right. So
Well, we tried.
I know.
and we ran out of time.
I know.
Oh, what's the next percentage? So that is 5% light on the light panels. We need the percent is too arbitrary. We need to get the light meter. Whenever we do our low light test next week, we'll get the light meter.
Yes.
5% is not a lot of light. So I think the light meter is next door in the other shop. So anyway,
If you were going to ask me how bright it is, I would just say it's dark. So
yeah, it's very dark. This is not
it's seriously, it's really dark. This would be
an atrocious amount
this
of
would be
light.
darker than what I would say like a bedroom. Now to give you reference, the color temperature is this is 5600 right here, AJ. I'm assuming
Still 6,000.
6,000. So we're at 6K on the color temperature of the light, but it's dark. I mean, it's obviously not going to be the right color temperature of a bedroom, but it is darker than a bedroom. It's dark. That's all I can say without a better reference. So
Yeah.
There's hardly any light
But you can
coming on.
see how quickly, even at this low of light, zoomed all the way in, you can see how quickly even adding a little bit of light brings that color back in, gets rid of some of that noise, and then brightens that image back up. And our aperture is still all the way open. So let's cut over to the 130. So this is the 130, and this is aperture all the way open. We do need to check and make
Yep,
sure we didn't
aperture all
have
the way
any
open.
digital gain on that. We do need to check and make sure
Yeah,
we didn't have
'cause
any
that is
digital gain on the
darker.
40. It is darker, but it's also, again, I think I would say that there are electronic limits on. I'm not
Hey, guys, look
speaking
at that.
out of anything other than the fact what.
oh, there we go. I was wondering why it was.
Hey, we had an auto gain setting.
I was wondering why it was so noisy.
There you go. That is
at
zero
gain.
That
There
is
we
0
go.
gain.
Okay, so
on the 40.
now people believe us when we say it's dark. So Nate, can you take us back to that 1% mark? Nate is the name of our
Nate's the
lighting
key
software that we use here.
grip.
It's a voice automated, Siri automated lighting
Holy cow.
software.
Yeah, it's
So that's 1%.
there's hardly any image, at least on the multi-view. I don't know what it looks like to you.
Yeah.
We need to get the foot candles meter.
I'm staring here.
Nate, do you know where that is next
I've
door?
got one on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Nate, come grab my phone. That's dark. Nate's gonna take a measurement here. We're using light meter on my phone. So you want
There
foot
you go.
candles or you want lux?
Foot candles.
Okay.
So this is the calibrated iPhone built into the iPhone light meter.
Yeah, it's just like the SPL meters on
do it on
iPhones.
Han
It's
Solo.
really, really accurate. So the next time someone comes up and tells you something's too loud and shows you their phone, they're spot on.
Yeah.
And
So-
iris still all the way open.
What are we showing, Nate? 0 foot candles.
Yes. 1, 3. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. That seems about right.
Yeah.
Still about nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really, really dark. So if we take that to 5% now, and just for reference, Nate, take that when we can. I want to see how bright the guys are over in the Studio 3 right now.
So that is 5%.
So
on our
5% in
light.
our lights.
And what's that foot candle, Nate?
if it doesn't say anything that looks real, just make it up so it looks real for the, oh, I'm unmuting, aren't I? What's that there? 7?
7.
So he's saying that's 7 right there. So we went from 3 to 7, and 7 already is making a huge difference. So we want to switch on over to the one. No, and Nate's going to do a test over there in the studio to show what that's at.
What's that at? We don't know how to use this light meter on the phone, Nick.
I think you just click a button on it. I don't know if it's set to the right, if it's set to the front, not the back, but it's dark. Brady, switch us over to the next camera.
Yeah.
So this is the
40.
This is
Or
the
30. Sorry.
So this is the 30.
I don't know why they named
It's also at 0 gain, iris open all the way. So things here obviously are, this was a constant aperture on the lens, so it's letting in the same amount of light as it was zoomed out. And then the other thing here too is it's a larger sensor, so it's effectively capturing more light, if you will. So this is the 30. And then do we want to check and see and look at what the 140 looks like now?
The 140?
150.
150?
Yeah, 150 is, there you go.
So roughly the same. Switch back and forth maybe between
the 40 looks slightly brighter.
You mean the 130 looks slightly brighter?
Yes, the 130.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say the iris is all the way open on the 150.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say the 130 is slightly brighter. Yeah.
That's actually a little bit of a shock to me.
Yeah. But it's not a lot of light, so I think that's also something to keep in mind is, again, this is pretty much no light.
Yeah.
So,
if anyone's running light like this,
Nate, let's turn that up to about, I don't know, let's say 50%. Okay. We just don't trust the iPhone light meter.
No, we don't. Okay, so now
let's go 25%. That's still maybe a smidge. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I would say this is an extremely poorly lit auditorium.
yes.
iris still all the way up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and the iris is still all the way
as
up.
much as you can.
So you are more usable. But I would say this is an extremely poorly lit auditorium.
And at some point in time, you know, I mean, it's a poorly lit auditorium, but the camera looks good. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it's certainly bright enough.
And that's the 40. So you can
40.
definitely see that color saturation
30.
loss. That's the 130, and that is the 150.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's definitely larger sensor, more light, constant aperture on the lens. So it's the camera definitely has some things working for it there.
And
so.
you know, it actually makes sense. The 130 is a 3 MOS, so it is probably going to let in more light than the 150, which is a single MOS. So it's a 4K single MOS versus an HD 3 MOS. So that is something to keep in mind. So we could probably close the aperture a smidge on the 130 because it looks like we're overblowing it a touch. So
We definitely are.
Yeah, so they all three do really, I mean, very acceptable in low light, I would say.
The 2 of them do acceptable in low light. The 130 and the 150, I would say, are acceptable in low light. I would say the 40, give it some light.
Give it some light.
Yeah.
And again, any camera, I mean, ideally,
Any camera wants light, but you
like
know.
right now, I'm sitting in front and just absolutely and I could shade down a touch too. The sun's kind of changed and moved in here, but you know, right now I'm being hit by light pretty good. I mean, you guys are over there in Studio 17B. You guys
We keep growing.
I love how the studio number keeps changing.
Well, we keep adding studios, so you have to add numbers.
There we go.
You guys look, you know, you guys are really lit up over there if you walk over there. I mean, it's definitely very, very bright. So, yeah, some of these cameras are obviously going to do better than others. It's definitely hugely made up on the or hugely depends on the lens and the sensor, obviously, are your two big factors there.
We'll have to remember the light meter for next week's broadcast cameras and low light test.
Yes.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Then we can give some more real world values. So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I real quick, we've got about 15 minutes left here, so I want to remind everyone we're taking your questions. It's not too late to get those questions in on Facebook and YouTube. Ask those questions now about anything related to PTZs, and if you have questions, maybe for next week as well. We can get those loaded into memory, and be thinking about those questions too. We're doing broadcast cameras next week. We were going to do it this week, but we wanted to give a bit more time to get one of the cameras right and to really kind of work with it to give our put its best foot forward, which is going to be the Ursa broadcast camera. So we'll be doing that next week. And if you missed our last episode, go back and watch it. It is the ultimate camera stream that we did last week. A really great stream talking about all of the different types of cameras used for live production. That is on the YouTube and Facebook page as well. And a reminder, there are 5 episodes that came before that. One episode that did really, really well for us and was really liked by a lot of people, which was our first episode of the P3 Pro Production Podcast, which was AJ telling us how to do audio for broadcast, audio for live streaming. So go back and check out that episode. Attempting to do it. Yeah. It ended up sounding great. So, so that was episode 1 of all of this. So I think we're ready for some side-by-sides to kind of end the night here. Is that right?
Yeah. AJ? Yeah. We've got that set up now. So we've got the side-by-side DVE set up. So Brady, if you just switch not the program layer, but this layer right here, we'll be switching through 2, 3, and 4. So that is the 40 and the 150. So the 40 is on the right, the 150 is on the left. So that is the side-by-side of those 2 cameras. And that's still relatively low light. Should we increase the light again, Nick, before we do the full side-by-side so we can actually see the color reproduction of what they look like?
I would say, yeah, give it the benefit of the doubt.
Let's go ahead and turn that. Let's go and turn that. And we'll take a meter next week, and we'll let everyone know what those settings are.
And we've got a request here too. Yeah. Maybe later in our closing minutes, if we can rush through this, to see a real person on camera. And I'm staring at him right now to see if he'd be willing to do that.
You want me to do it? I mean, I'm already on camera. I can just walk
either
over.
Either that, or if Nate wants to do it, Nate.
I'll walk over there. I'm
AJ.
next to
he would like AJ to do it. So no pressure to Nate.
Nate, go up to 100% on that light.
Nate's a prototype anyways, we talked about. He's doing a great job with the voice commands. So now it's bright. Now it's really, really bright. So we're going to come back to that camera there, and they're going to iris down a touch, a smidge.
And ignore the white balance.
Tell us again, AJ, what cameras are on the left, what cameras are on the right?
The 40 is on the left. The 150 is on the right.
And one of the things that I'm looking at here is just the depth of the image still.
Yeah.
Because if we switch, I don't know if there's any way easily to switch to the smaller camera that we have there.
Oh, this one, the Blackmagic.
No. The camera all the way to your right.
The 40.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we're looking at here.
The 40's on the right, 40's and the 150's on the left.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So on the 40, the thing I'm seeing is his face on the left side of his face.
Yeah.
How much darker, how much more contrast there is on the 150 to the 40.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I found that really interesting. And just one of those images looks deeper. They're both the same, shooting the same subject, but one of those images
the color saturation is definitely higher on the 150.
Yes, for sure.
So, and then we can change that right shot to the 130 as well. So
these are the more
that'll
two.
Be camera 3.
These are 2 of the more similar cameras.
Yep. So we've actually still got, and again, we're just gonna have to spend. We didn't have as much time to white balance as we should have. So we're gonna have to spend a little bit more time coloring the cameras next week. But anyway, you can kind of see that these cameras would definitely shoot out against one another a little bit better. The one on the right currently has more saturation, but they can be matched. I can definitely tell you from experience that the 130 and the 150 can be matched. The 40 is slightly harder to match, but it's definitely a harder camera to match against the other cameras just because the saturation isn't quite there. So
cool.
So yeah. So I guess I have to go stand in the PTZ shot?
Yeah. While AJ moves over there. While AJ moves over there, I'll thank everyone tonight. Thank you to, thanks Brady, thanks AJ, thanks myself, thanks Nate. He's the camera operator 2 weeks in a row. It's been great having him. And then Brett Goodrich for making graphics for us. Jenny Fager on the phones. Roger Bishop producing the show, and Brian Adams right behind me, who is, I think Brian is everything. He's the research department. He's the director. He does a lot of things. So thanks everyone for helping us to do this tonight. And again, if you guys have requests for future shows, things you would like to see, I know someone's asked about lenses in the future.
We'll probably be talking about the lenses on broadcast cameras, right?
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that a bit next week. But if you guys have any requests, make sure you send those to the Facebook or the YouTube page. We're watching those. Or if you have critiques, criticism, or suggestions,
we might listen to those.
We might listen to those. Shoot those there as well. So Brady's over in the studio manning the controller there, and look who we have as our subject for tonight.
It's still me.
It's still AJ and his black polo.
So
look at that smile.
This is very dramatic lighting.
Should we
down iris real quick?
Should we turn the shop lights back on?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, cool.
No. So to give everyone an idea of what this is just a single 2x1 light panel. Did we ever get the model on this, Brian? Did we ever figure that out? Anyway, Gemini. That's it. I knew it was something cool. I just didn't want to say it wrong. So this is a light panel Gemini 2x1 with a softbox added onto it, and this is me lit with just one light. Pretty much at a 45 degree, no bounce on this side of my face or anything like that. So just one key light. Typically, if you were lighting like this, you would want to have like a reflector or something over here to kind of fill in this dark space on my face, and probably also some sort of light to add depth to my shadows and everything else. So this is the 40. This is a real subject in the camera.
This is the 40 here?
Yep, this is the 40.
So this is the least expensive of our cameras.
Here's a 30.
And the skin tone it's almost a little bit shocking switching between the two. The skin tone is quite a bit more. There's a lot more skin tone.
Is it adding a tan? I'm a pretty pale individual.
This looks pretty pale here. It's almost so much that it looks weird off the start, but this is quite a bit. There's quite a bit more skin tone, almost to the point where you might dial it back a touch. But
yeah, I would definitely dial it back a touch. But again, this is kind of straight out of literally straight out of the box.
And switch one more time go back once, Brady. I think the thing I want to highlight here too is the backgrounds. So notice the background in this, and then move to the next. Notice the background in this. They don't change the background much, but the skin tone significantly changes between the two shots. So, again, we talk about depth and gaining depth and making things not look just single dimensional in video. And this is a huge reason for it. And I mean, granted, there's a bit of splash coming off of the back wall, but we're not lighting him from behind. And to gain depth, you really need that backlight. So, that's a really good example of what skin tone does, and the benefit of depth. So,
and here's the 150, Nick.
Okay, and the 150 is kind of the best of both worlds out of the box. The 150, what I'm seeing here is I'm still seeing skin tone, but I'm seeing clear definition and separation between the backgrounds. If we switch between the 150 and the 40, what does that look like? Yeah, so flat, very flat, not a ton of depth. And then, that in suboptimal lighting conditions, again, as much light as we're lighting him from the right side of the face, there's a high dynamic range here. There's a lot of good blacks on the left side of his face. There's on the right side of his face, it's not overexposed, but it's lit. And I can tell you from sitting here in the room, the right side of his face is blown out in the room if I'm just looking at him right now. Visually looking at him with my eyes, and the left side of his face is almost black. So it's a really good rendition, I would say, of what it looks like live.
And for those of you at home who are really interested in the two shots out of the 150, so this is our wide shot, and there's our tight.
I need like a book, like the NAB models. The NAB models. I miss NAB this year, so the NAB models would just sit there on set all day, just like reading books or playing cards. Or that's what I really need. That's what I should have done. We should have set up a card table. I could have played cards.
Man.
Solitaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by myself, So
again, this is the same camera.
Yeah. I definitely need that, but oh well.
I was looking for something before I couldn't find anything. So
Oh, gotcha.
yep. So that's again the region of interest crop that we were talking about. That is the wide shot there. So that's utilizing the
we
entire
go.
4K sensor.
Hey, a CTS book.
A CTS bug. That's
There we go.
utilizing the entire 4K sensor. And then if Brady goes to the tight, then that is a region of interest crop that then is actually digitally zooming all on that one camera. And that happens internal to the camera as well. So that's also a good point to make.
The
So-
rack dressing is terrible in this CTS book.
Okay. Maybe don't call CTS out on the stream.
Well, that's their old edition. That's their old edition. Give them a benefit
And
of
on
the doubt.
that note, back to the studio.
No, anyway.
So yeah. Well, guys, AJ, if you want to head back over to the studio,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
going to take me a few minutes to get all the way over there.
yeah. Well, don't worry. I sent
Remember, Studio 17.
I
not Studio
sent the
15.
team out with the. We have the new shuttles that go between the hyper rails, right? That go between the studios, so that'll work well.
Elon's building us a tunnel.
You know, I really felt like this week we channeled our inner SpaceX and NASA here in the studio, and we've been channeling it. So, you know, we're pretty close there. If you're in the room right now, we have a lot of technology in here.
Yeah, ClearCom, Free Speak. Let's see. Carbonite Ultra. Yeah.
There's a lot of
lots going
Nate,
on.
if you pan up to the right, all of the Vericam and the all the broadcast gear is still set up from last week.
Yeah.
So that's all just sitting there for fun too. So
Let's be fair. I mean, it's not fun to put up and tear down.
no, it's not.
all.
It's not. So, hey, so again, next week we're going to be talking about one of those cameras in the right of the image there, which is the 5500 from Hitachi, the one up there with the DigiPower on it.
Yep.
But we'll be talking about more broadcast cameras and lenses next week. We're going to talk about also maybe what makes the lenses special, what makes that DigiPower 55 special and expensive and makes it look great.
And worth every penny.
And worth every penny of it. So we'll be talking about that a little bit next week as well when we cover broadcast cameras more. But guys, I want to go through. We didn't do this last week because we ran over time, but it's been kind of a staple of the show. I want to go through last thoughts. So starting per usual with his last thoughts and just throwing it on him is Brady Davis. So Brady, your last thoughts?
Yeah, my last thoughts are sometimes PTZs are thrown out there of, oh, no, I'll never use PTZ because XYZ, when really, as seen today, they can be utilized in a bunch of different situations, from not so great situations to great lighting conditions. You can do a lot with one person. So if you're church, if you don't have a ton of volunteers, you can do a lot of different cameras and a lot of presets and things from one person. Or if you're using them in a corporate, still comes down to just one person. Instead of having to have a ton of camera ops that are trained properly, you can definitely have a smaller talent pool to work with. And these can be utilized in a lot of places. There's just things you have to think about before you move forward with your installation. Vibration is one of the big ones. Placement, making sure you can place them correctly. If you have a super long room, get one of these and demo it before you really install it to make sure you can get the zoom length you want.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Totally agreed. AJ, your closing thoughts?
Let's see. My closing thoughts would be, let me find this note here because
You can't write down your closing thoughts.
I didn't write it down.
That's not fair.
Here is my closing thought. If you think you really, really want the PTZ form factor, however, you may not quite be able to squeeze into that $3,500 entry-level budget for the 40. Save your money. That's
a
my
good
closing
closing
thought.
thought.
Yeah,
Dang.
save your money.
Gosh.
As it relates to live production, I'm just saying there is a point of diminishing returns when you start to get below the 40, and you're just going to get there. You're going to get your servo motors are going to be way more steppy. They're going to. We need to see if we can get one in the shop just so we can.
Yes.
The problem is we don't have one. We don't
Or have
know.
ever had one.
Yeah, or have ever had one.
We are
Unfortunately-
buying an Amazon eBay special PTZ camera tonight.
There we go. Anyway, because it's really hard to talk about, I think, without showing. But your motors are just going to get way steppier. You're not going to get any smooth movement, and the picture picture quality is just going to be an extremely less quality. So
Especially
I think
if you're using a
I think
production
that's again, this is as it relates to live production. Do lower cost PTZ cameras have their place? Absolutely they do. Whether it's a classroom, conferencing, whatever it might be, they can absolutely have their place. But as it relates to live production, which is what we're focusing on, the 40 is definitely I wouldn't want to go much lower. So
That $3,500 price range.
yeah.
No, I totally agree. I really like what both of you said, and I would I'm going to mix my closing thoughts with yours, which is PTZs, no matter how expensive they are, just might not be right for your application.
Yeah.
And I think even the 150, which is a $10,000 PTZ camera. It's the nicest PTZ camera you can purchase. Not the nicest. It's within.
I would say the all-in-one factor. We didn't the all-in-one form factor.
Yeah,
we obviously did not get into mounting a broadcast camera head onto a separate PTZ controller.
Yeah,
but
'cause
yes, that's a thing.
People will mount box cameras,
Yeah.
and when I say a box camera, I mean a stripped down camera. It doesn't have all of the connectivity on it that a normal camera, like a studio camera, would have. If you want to know more about that, if you watched the episode from last week, but people will mount that on a high quality head from someone like Ross makes a system for a PTZ system. So that's a whole different realm, and really we're mixing two systems with each other. The reality is though that 150 is about the nicest all-in-one camera that you can purchase, and its price point is $10,000 plus then the PoE plus as well as then the controller too. So you're in the systems for $13,000 to $14,000 to $15,000 for that first camera.
Yeah.
That camera might not be right for you. As nice as it is, tracking people with PTZ cameras is next to impossible. And I challenge you to find someone that is...
I do know someone.
Who?
She couldn't be... Well, I didn't even call her, but I need to.
We'll do a midweek
She's
interview.
way better than AJ.
Yeah. No, because we actually use these cameras for live production. We used a boatload of them for the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, and the girl who did all of the camera control, Christina, she did a phenomenal job, and she was very good at now, granted, symphony musicians are not jetting across a stage, so maybe I need to be taking that into consideration. For the most part, they're somewhat standing still. But either way, they're moving a lot.
There is, though, for the average PTZ operator and for the average person, there is still not a great substitute for a manned camera.
Correct.
So again, PTZs have their place. 100% PTZs have their place. And optically now, PTZs are starting to look very near to... just as good as cameras, as camcorders, I guess I would say. Maybe not some of the higher end broadcast cameras, but camcorders, they look really, really close to, and they're starting to match them in the price point as well. So, it's starting to become a if or, by the time you buy one of the cameras that we're using tonight on AJ and Brady over there, which is how expensive a camera is that?
The 350?
$3,500.
They're how much?
I believe 35.
The 350, the one we're actually shooting on? This one?
Yeah.
$3,800.
$3,800 with a $1,200 tripod sitting underneath of it. So that's it's a $5,000 camera.
Not this one. This is the nicer tripod.
Oh, okay. So with another equally expensive tripod. All I'm saying is they're not right for every situation. Even if you have all the money to spend in the world, a PTZ camera might not be right for your workflow. So just remember that there is no great substitute yet for someone tracking with a camera on a pedestal. So.
Yeah.
I think they can be used for, if you're doing a large broadcast, already have some great man cameras and are looking for some point of view cameras.
Definitely some great relief shots.
Some great relief shots. A killer drum camera. I mean, put that 150 on a drummer and he'll look phenomenal.
Or even putting on a slider. We've seen people put these on sliders and that work really well too. So, well, cool, guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Brady and AJ, always appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week for the broadcast cameras. So,
thanks, Nick.
Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight, whether you're watching live or you're watching on demand. We thank you so much for watching our program. It's great to be with you. Great to have you as always. Again, thank you to everyone in studio who's working behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. Thank you to all of our great manufacturers. None of them tonight lent us gear. This was all purchased by us to do the demo with. But again, the manufacturers that provided or manufacture this gear, thank you for manufacturing great quality equipment. We had Ross, Miller tripods, light panels, Panasonic, obviously, all represented tonight. as well. So next week, broadcast cameras, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back here. And remember, send us your thoughts via Facebook or via YouTube. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your suggestions or your ideas for upcoming shows. Yeah, go ahead and send those over to us, and we'll see what we can do. So again, we'll see you all next week, 7 p.m. Eastern time, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast or youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast. Everyone have a safe week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.